What is up, guys? Welcome back to another GeekaWhat video, and in today's video we're going to be building an awesome gaming PC inside NZXT's H510 Elite. In this video I'll be running you through all the components we chose and why, putting this system together and then booting it up to see how good it looks when it's all powered up, but more importantly how it performs in some of the most popular titles out there. We're talking Apex Legends, Fortnite, Cyberpunk 2077 and many more. So without any further ado, let's dive into it. After a quick ad from today's video sponsor. The Corsair K70 RGB 10 keyless Champion Series keyboard is one of Corsair's latest releases and builds a keyboard in an awesome 10 keyless form factor. The Champion range has been specifically developed with top esports pros and builds on years of testing. RGB can be easily customized in Corsair iCUE as usual, while durable PBT double shot keycaps and Cherry MX switches guaranteed for 100 million keystrokes keep you on top of your game. Learn more at the link in the description below. Let's start today's build and really kick things off by installing as many components into the motherboard as possible. For the motherboard, I selected Gigabyte's B550 Aorus Pro. This is a really fantastic B550 option with support for up to a Ryzen 9 CPU on our AM4 socket, 4 RAM DIMM slots for dual channel memory performance, some M.2 cooling if we'd like to use it, and also a pretty solid rear I/O that includes 10 gigabit USB-C and USB Type-A. They also do a Wi-Fi version available, and I'll link all the components mentioned today in the description below. I'll be coupling up the motherboard with a Ryzen 5 5600X. This is my favourite CPU of 2021, and it is an absolutely fantastic chip. With 6 cores and 12 threads, it's got bags of multi-threaded performance for newer titles like Cyberpunk 2077, but finally AMD have also caught up with single-threaded performance. Fast clock speeds make this a great chip for even CSGO, Valorant and GTA 5, which are less optimized when it comes to using more CPU cores. I find it hard to recommend Intel over AMD in 2021, and while the i5-11600K is a decent value proposition, the Ryzen 5 5600X is my go-to every day of the week. I'll be coupling our CPU up with 16 gigabytes of RAM from Corsair. This is the Vengeance Pro SL. It's the updated version of the older Vengeance RGB Pro. You've got some nice RGB lighting up top, a fast 3600 MHz speed, which is very important for a Ryzen CPU. You don't want to go for slow memory. And of course, 2 sticks means we can run it in dual channel. Something, once again, that when you go for a Ryzen CPU will help to boost your frame rate up. And every extra FPS that we can get most definitely helps. With our short-term memory, our RAM installed, it's time to move on to the longer-term memory, and I am of course alluding to the storage for this build. I definitely recommend you go for an M.2 SSD in 2021, as a SATA drive is just far too slow nowadays. But you do have a few choices. You can go for an expensive Gen 4 drive, like Seagate's FireCuda 520 or options from WD, but I think Gen 3 is still good enough. It's not going to bottleneck your games, and you're still going to get read and write speeds in the region of about 3 gigabytes per second, which is still pretty rapid. This Seagate Barracuda 510 drive has a 1TB capacity, some decent speeds, and comes in at an ever more affordable price point, making this a great value system today, and more affordable than our other H510 build, which you can check out in the cards section now. Moving swiftly on, the final component to pop onto the motherboard is the CPU cooler. This is Deepcool's fantastic AS500. It is going to give you better FPS than sticking with the stock cooler, as we tested in a recent video in the cards section now. What's more, the beefed up cooling design with RGB and pretty large fan provides superior cooling performance to Cooler Master's Hyper 212 RGB design, and it's super easy to mount. Watch this. First things first, you want to take these included screws with the pre-applied black plastic spacers and screw these in the 4 corners around the processor. And then take 2 of these brackets facing outwards and pop these onto the screws you've just installed. Use the included thumb screws to fasten this bracket down and make sure it doesn't go anywhere. The CPU cooler in a moment's time is going to mount on top of this. A dab of thermal paste onto the processor, but not too much, that's about perfect. And the cooler will very nicely sit on top, secured down a little until something like this. They should start employing me for instructional videos with skills like these. Lovely stuff. The motherboard assembly is looking pretty great with our cooler, RAM, CPU and storage all nicely complete. The next thing we need to do is just pop this into the case today, which as I said earlier is NZXT's fantastic H510 Elite. With a really nice tempered glass side panel, this powder coated white finish on the bottom, the top and the rear of the case, and then once again a little bit more tempered glass at the front with, don't worry Gamers Nexus fans, a bit of ventilation down the side. This is a really nice case. It is a little bit more on the pricey side than what we'd usually go for in a build like this, but in 2021 where pricing's all over the place, spending an extra $50 to make your build look that bit better never seems so good. I find that the best thing to do with any new case is just to take off as many side panels as possible. In our case, the glass panel and the rear panel. And this will make installing the motherboard into this chassis today that little bit easier. You can suddenly see how this build is going to look once we get that motherboard into place, with aesthetically the large deep cool CPU cooler looking really quite nice, I think. The penultimate component to pop into the build today and the next part on our list is the graphics card, arguably the most exciting part of any build. For this I've gone for Gigabyte's Eagle OC RTX 3060Ti, and boy is this GPU a flyer. In all seriousness, the Eagle OC is a superb card. The cooler is much more basic and minimalistic than something like a Gaming X Trio card, but despite this, temperatures and performance were spot on. You can check out our full written review on GeekaWhat.com in the card section now. It's well worth a read. Obviously, it goes without saying that picking up a 3060 Ti, or in fact any graphics card at the moment, is quite a difficult task. And I know that pricing and availability is all over the shop. Pick up any 3060 Ti that you can get for a price you're comfortable with, and I'd like to hope that as the months carry on, stock and pricing should get that little bit better. Either way, the 3060 Ti is a superb card. It knocks closely on the door to a 3070, as we found out in our recent GPU comparison video, while giving you a nice lead over the lower end RTX 3060. For gaming at 1440p, this is your card, and if you love those high frame rates at 1080p, then this is a great option too. It should also look pretty nice in our build today. There is a vertical GPU mount option available, but I think we're going to stick with the standard mount, which should give us slightly lower temperatures, a little bit better airflow, and all in all, an easier build experience. I think that looks quite nice. Proportionally, it's a little bit on the small side, but it keeps our white NZXT cable cover on show, which is actually a pretty nice bonus. Let's secure the graphics card down and then go ahead and put the power supply in to make sure our build is nice and juiced up. Talking of which, here it is. This is Cooler Master's MWE Gold 650 watt power supply. It's a fully modular unit, meaning you only plug in the cables you need, with an 80+ gold certification, meaning it's super duper efficient. What's more, the included black sleeved cables and compact unit make sure your wall juice can turn into component juice nice and easily and efficiently. 650 watts is definitely the right amount for today's build. 750 is a bit overkill, but 550 will cause you some issues when the 3060 Ti occasionally kind of power surges. The 650 is going to handle that no problem. And with that, our system is about done. I think it looks fantastic, and it's not even booted up yet. Let's turn this system on, see just how good it looks when it's all powered up, and then take a dive into the land of performance, which can only mean one thing. Roll the montage! Awesome stuff. Now we've seen just how good this system looks when it's all powered up, let's take a dive into the land of performance. On your screen now is a summary, a snapshot view of all the different titles we tested out and the frame rates we were able to achieve. You'll also find in a second the temperature testing for the CPU and GPU to show the H510 Elite really has those temperatures under control. If you'd like to see the full unedited gaming benchmark runs, as always, they're on our benchmarking channel called Benched, which you can subscribe to in the card section now. Let's take a closer look at some of our focus titles today though, kicking things off with GTA 5. At 1440p high in the game's inbuilt benchmarking mode, we got a pretty impressive 104 frames per second on average. You can also find our 90 and 99th percentile results for all titles today on your screen, and this is tested in both Nvidia's FrameView and MSI's RivaTuner software. The next title we tested out today is Call of Duty's Black Ops Cold War, here at 1440p high settings in the game's multiplayer zombies mode. We got a pretty impressive 126 frames per second. Once again, that's at 1440p high, so no complaints from me. But what if you don't want to play Cold War and you instead want to play the new Warzone map? Well, I'm happy to report that with DLSS 2.0 enabled at 1440p high settings, Warzone gave us some superb numbers. Higher than Cold War as you'd expect, especially leveraging that DLSS 2.0 tech. Apex Legends is next up, and it's a similarly positive story. 1440p high settings gave us some esports level frame rates, 125 FPS on average to be precise, with 111 and 98 for the 90 and the 99th percentile results. Valorant is the next title on our list today, and a game that's proven really popular recently. It is pretty easy to run, but it's always a nice one to test out, and we got some great results. At 1440p high, we got 235 frames per second on average, with 210 and 170 for the 90 and the 99th percentile results. Once again, if you'd like to see the full unedited gaming benchmark runs, check out that playlist in the cards section now. The penultimate title we tested was a bit of Cyberpunk before we jump into Fortnite today. Cyberpunk is of course a pretty difficult game to run in 2021, and that's why we tested it at 1080 and 1440p, just to give it a decent shot. Here at 1080p high settings, we got 83 frames per second on average, which really is not a bad result. For the 90 and the 99th percentile results, the numbers were also solid, and we never really dropped below 65 frames per second. But what about if you tune up to 1440p medium settings? 1440p high on a 3060 Ti is a bit of a stretch, but 1440p medium gave us 70 frames per second on average, with 61 for the 90th percentile result and 53, ouch, for the 99th percentile result. Finally then, the last game we tested out was a bit of Fortnite. You guys always ask us to test Fortnite at 1080p competitive settings, and we have indeed delivered. With all our settings tuned down to low, but the render distance set to far, to make sure you can see those enemies off in the distance, we got a pretty respectable 165 frames per second on average. And visually, despite being at low or competitive settings, the game still looked fantastic. Let me know though in the comments below what you thought of today's build, what you kind of think of the performance numbers. What's the title that you'd be playing on a machine like this? With that being said though, that pretty much wraps it up for today's video. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, we'll see you in the next one.